When corrupt cops think they can lie, intimidate, or twist the law in their favor, they sometimes forget who really runs the courtroom.
Not like the consequences. Today is that day.
From explosive takedowns to brutally honest reality checks, here are 8 savage moments where corrupt cops got exactly what they deserved in court.
I guess I broke policy, and I guess I made her feel uncomfortable, Your Honor.
Why would you have made her feel uncomfortable, sir?
Kicking things off with a case that raised more than a few eyebrows back in 2014, Butler police officer Brian Pergande was accused of disorderly conduct after snapping inappropriate close-up photos of a woman whom he had previously arrested.
Mr. Pergande, if you give up all those rights today and thereby give up the right to have a trial, there's never going to be a trial in these matters, sir, and instead we are going to resolve it all here this morning. You understand that? Mr. Pergande, you're joining with your lawyer, sir, in pleading no contest to this disorderly conduct charge back from September the 8th, 2009. What is it specifically that you did that you're causing you to plead no contest to disorderly conduct here today, Mr. Pergande?
I took photos that were eventually blown up, I believe.
What?
I took photos of a female that I arrested.
Why would you plead no contest to a charge of disorderly conduct for having done that?
I guess I broke policy, and I guess I made her feel uncomfortable, Your Honor.
Why would you have made her feel uncomfortable, sir?
The judge didn't let this slide. He grilled the officer over the disturbing details and ultimately escalated the case to trial, bringing it back as a felony charge.
You are not above the law, nor can you ignore the law when it serves your purpose. The sentences will be served consecutively for a total of 4.5 years.
It all kicked off in 2017 when Sheriff James Lujan helped his buddy, who was a wanted city councillor, evade arrest. That move cost him big time. He was hit with 2 felony charges, and when the case went to trial, the judge tore into him for his blatant abuse of power.
The people of Rio Arriba County elected you to be sheriff. They put their trust in you to uphold the law, and you let them down.
Yes, Your Honor, I try to do the best that I can to help everybody I can, and I in no way would want to.
The law is the law. You are not above the law, nor can you ignore the law when it serves your purpose. The sentences will be served consecutively for a total of 4.5 years, of which 3 years of imprisonment and 1.5 years supervised probation. You let down the people of Rio Arriba County, and you let down the Sheriff's Department, the department that you led. What kind of example were you giving the people that you supervise?
Lujan was sentenced to 3 years behind bars, and just 1 day after the verdict, he finally stepped down as sheriff. Talk about too little, too late.
The court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270.
In May 2020, the world watched in horror as George Floyd's death sparked global outrage. The man responsible, Derek Chauvin, was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. After a brief trial, the courtroom held its breath as the judge prepared to deliver the sentence. But first, he had a critical announcement to make.
Both from the Floyd family and the defendant's family. I've read all the impact statements that were submitted earlier and listened carefully to all the input here today. And it is truly appreciated that you took the time to stay with this case and to provide me with input. I have reviewed the pre-sentence investigation and carefully considered all the facts of the case and the law, but my comments are actually going to be very brief because most of it's going to be in writing. I have a 22-page memorandum that is going to be attached to the sentencing order. And why am I doing it in writing? To emphasize the fact that determining the appropriate sentence in any case, and in this case, is a legal analysis. It's applying the rule of law to the facts of an individual and specific case. And that is why, as opposed to trying to being profound here on the record, I prefer that you read the legal analysis that explains how I determined the sentence in this case. What the case is, or what the sentence is not based on, is emotion or sympathy. But at the same time, I want to acknowledge the deep and tremendous pain that all the families are feeling, especially the Floyd family. You have our sympathies. And I acknowledge and hear the pain that you are feeling. I acknowledge the pain not only of those in this courtroom, but the Floyd family who are outside this courtroom and other members of the community. It has been painful throughout Hennepin County, throughout the state of Minnesota, and even the country. But most importantly, we need to recognize the pain of the Floyd family. I'm not going to attempt to be profound or clever because it's not the appropriate time. I'm not basing my sentence also on public opinion. I'm not basing it on any attempt to send any messages. A trial court judge, the job of a trial court judge is to apply the law to specific facts and to deal with individual cases. Mr. Chauvin, as to count 1, based on the verdict of the jury finding you guilty of unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony under Minnesota Statute 609.19 subdivision 2 paren 1, it is the judgment of the court that you now stand convicted of that offense. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute section 609.04, counts 2 and 3 will remain unadjudicated as they are lesser offenses of count 1. As sentence for count 1, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270. That is a 10-year addition to the presumptive sentence of 150 months. This is based on your abuse of a position of trust and authority, and also the particular cruelty shown to George Floyd. You are granted credit for 199 days already served. Pay the mandatory surcharge of $78 to be paid from prison wages. You're prohibited from possessing firearms, ammunition, or explosives for the remainder of your life. Provide a DNA sample as required by law. Register as a predatory offender as required by law. And then you will receive a copy of the order and also the attached memorandum explaining the court's analysis.
If this needs to be said, we just ask that it be executed forthwith.
Defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff to be transported back to the DOC or whichever custody is currently holding him. Anything for the defense? No, Your Honor. All right. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Finally, the judge handed down a sentence, 22.5 years in prison. Chauvin, once a badge-wearing authority, was now a convicted murderer. The sentence wasn't just justice, it was humiliation for a cop who thought he was untouchable. And just like that, he was gone for a long, long time.
The defendant, Daniel C. Howard, guilty or not guilty of domestic battery? Guilty.
And here we go. Former Idaho police officer Daniel Howard, who once upheld the law, is now facing it head-on. After his wife was murdered in 2021, he wasn't arrested until 2023, and let's just say the courtroom wasn't buying his not guilty act.
Is the defendant, Daniel C. Howard, guilty or not guilty of domestic battery? Guilty. Count 2. Is the defendant, Daniel C. Howard, guilty or not guilty of murder in the first degree? Not guilty. Is the defendant, Daniel Howard, guilty or not guilty of second-degree murder? Guilty.
Counsel, I'm proposing a sentencing date of May 23rd at 1:30 p.m. That's available. I will order a PSI or a pre-sentence investigation. Mr. Howard, I'll have you talk with your attorney about that. You have the right to participate or not participate in that. You continue to have the right to remain silent. Mr. Howard is remanded into custody. I'll see everyone back May 23rd at 1:30 for sentencing. We will be in recess.
And if you thought this case couldn't get any darker, think again. Officer Daniel Howard was found guilty of domestic battery and second-degree murder. But what really left the courtroom in shock wasn't just the brutality of the crime, it was the fact that this man showed zero remorse.
I struggle with guilt and I struggle with not knowing. I wish I could have convinced her to stay with me instead of going home that night. The fear on her face and in her voice when she told me about how she woke up with him standing over her will never leave me. Nothing will fill the hole he has created. Nothing can fix or undo what he has done. But her name can be free. The thought that he can no longer have control over her name, her memory, and her spirit gives me a sense of peace.
I'm not that monster, I assure you, that people are portraying me to be.
Despite Howard's best effort at playing the not me card, the judge wasn't having it. His claims of innocence fell flat, but before slamming down the gavel and handing out the sentence, the judge took a moment to look this dangerous creep dead in the eye, and what he said next wasn't pretty.
Beyond a reasonable doubt is that you strangled your wife, you murdered her, and then you staged her naked body in the bathtub, shot her through the mouth, and tried to pass this off as a suicide. That's proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And, you know, often in horrible crimes like this, everybody wants to know why. And often we don't know why. And I can't get inside your brain, but the pretty clear evidence, I agree with the state, is that this was due to, jealousy, greed, pride, anger, revenge, some combination of that. When you killed Kendi, you didn't just kill your wife. You killed a mother, you killed a grandmother, you killed a sister, you killed a daughter, you killed a coworker, you killed somebody who brought a lot of life and light to those around her and those she touched. And you snuffed that out because of your own pride, greed, and anger. Despite your efforts at the time to appear emotional and sad and distraught, it's clear to me that you're a remorseless killer. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that lightly at all because we don't like to think that anybody would be like that.
And here's the chilling twist. Howard didn't just murder his wife. He tried to stage the whole thing as a suicide. Yeah, let that sink in. The level of cold and cruelty seems straight out of a true crime documentary. Hard to believe this guy wore a badge and took an oath to protect people.
The lack of remorse, the lack of caring, and just the callous disregard that you had for Kendi and how her death affected those around her. And that you had these same thoughts. You were talking about allowing people to live through your own self-control and restraint, understanding why people would kill their, quote, old ladies and go to prison. And so you're 58 years old. I don't see a lot of rehabilitation, sadly, in your future. Maybe. Perhaps, but that's not a significant mitigating factor in sentencing you. And the public needs to know that there is a severe punishment for murdering your wife. And there's no sort of mitigation because the marriage is on the rocks or the wife was unfaithful or things like that. There's absolutely no justification here for murdering your wife. And I think it's important that the sentence sends that message as well. And the public needs to know that there is a severe punishment for murdering your wife. And there's no sort of mitigation because the marriage is on the rocks or the wife, was unfaithful or things like that. There's absolutely no justification here for murdering your wife. And I think it's important that the sentence sends that message as well. And then finally, punishment or retribution for wrongdoing and the impact on the victim. as has been noted by our courts, a judge really only has complete information when it comes to retribution and deterrence, because those are based on the nature of the offense. I can't otherwise get inside your head. And there's a lot that went on in this case that we don't know. We don't know how, Kendi got the injuries on her feet, on her head, all over her body. There's a lot of those things we don't know. But what I know beyond a reasonable doubt is that you strangled or asphyxiated your wife. You murdered her. You staged her body to be found as if it were suicide. It's an outrageously egregious murder. And of course, all murder is, but this is particularly heinous in my view, having sat through the trial and seen all the evidence.
Believe it or not, Howard sat through the entire trial calm as ever, like he wasn't about to be sentenced for murder. But the judge, he wasn't nearly as calm. With zero sympathy, he laid down a sentence that made it clear this ex-cop's badge wasn't saving him today.
And gravity of the offense standing alone is sufficient to justify a fixed life sentence. And that is what I'm going to impose here. I think Kendi's family deserves to have that closure. The crime is so egregious that I don't think you should be released at any point in the future. And I don't impose that lightly. I have thought long and hard about this, considered all the evidence, considered aggravation and mitigation. There's just so little mitigation here. There's just really none. And so I do find that a fixed life sentence is appropriate for the count of murder in the second degree. On the domestic violence charge, I'll impose 10-year sentence and run it concurrent. I didn't even speak about that. I mean, really, I'm not. I don't mean to give that charge short shrift. The jury found that you were violent and abusive to your wife as well.
And there it is. Howard was slapped with life in prison, no chance of parole. Safe to say, this psycho won't be seeing daylight again, and honestly, the world's better off for it.
Not like the consequences. Today is that day.
In 2023, Sheriff Jamie Knoll was busted for embezzling over $5 million, blowing it on luxury cars, cigars, and even a private plane. He got bail at first, but after violating court orders, police raided his home and found hidden weapons. When he showed up in court, the judge was furious and grilled the sheriff right there in court.
I told Mr. Knoll, don't do anything stupid. Do not try to deceive me, defy me. You will not like the consequences. Today is that day. You are not the law. You don't interpret the law. You don't enforce the law. You're not above the law. I find that you are in contempt of this court. Take him into custody. No, that's enough. I'll find you guys in contempt for disrupting the proceedings, and you'll be right there with him. Now, what is an appropriate sanction? The question is, I can sentence him up to 180 days without a trial, or I can sentence him to a day, or I can release him. You know what I think the answer is? 60 days in. That's what I think the answer is today. Now, Mr. Wilder.
Yes, Your Honor.
Or Mr. Boyles. I apologize, Mr. Boyles, your lead. Before he is released, I'll take your suggestion. I want an independent individual to scour that household to determine that there's no further weapons. I find it, Mr. Ertle's original argument that he was trying to make that I sustained, an officer of the law, every time I go into court, I hear, I didn't know it was there. I didn't know it was there. I really didn't. You've heard that a million times. You've heard it a million times, and yet you still take them into custody, would be my guess. Every officer in the world has heard, I didn't know it was there. It's my friends. I'm not buying it. It was your burden. It's your responsibility. And today, the court will enforce that. Take him away.
He may have only received 60 days for now, but his legal nightmare is far from over. He's staring down 31 felony charges, and if convicted, that short stint could turn into years behind bars. From sheriff to inmate, it's been a brutal fall from grace.
Verdict reads, we the jury, having found the defendant Aaron York Dean guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense of manslaughter, assess his punishment at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 11 years, 10 months, 12 days.
Next up, former officer Aaron Dean, who shot an innocent woman through her bedroom window, is finally facing the consequences. That's right, he's about to be charged with one of the most shocking and senseless murder you'll ever hear about.
Mr. Dean. Verdict reads, we the jury, having found the defendant Aaron York Dean guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense of manslaughter, assess his punishment at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 11 years, 10 months, 12 days. They do not assess a fine. And it is signed by the presiding juror. You may be seated. Thank you very much. Juror number 1, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 3, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 4, is this your verdict? Juror number 6, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 9, is this your verdict? Juror number 37, is this your verdict? Juror number 38, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your verdict will be received and filed. Thank you very much. Mr. Gill, Mr. Brissett, is there any legal reason why sentence should not be pronounced?
No legal reason.
Mr. Dean, it's the jury having found you guilty of the offense of manslaughter and assessed this punishment. It's the order of the court you be remanded to the custody of the sheriff, be delivered to the director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to serve your sentence as required by law. You will receive credit for all the time that you have served in custody on this case from the date of your original arrest up until today, which would be the date of sentence. If you are indigent and cannot afford a lawyer, I would conduct an indigency hearing to determine if you are indigent. And if you are indigent, I would appoint a lawyer to represent you on appeal and provide you a record of this appeal of this trial at no cost. Is there an allocution? You may be seated. Thank you very much.
And Dean wasn't convicted of murder, just manslaughter. He got 11 years behind bars, and yup, he's serving time as we speak. But let's be real, a lot of people think he got off way too easy. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Only in Florida, during a courtroom hearing in DeLand, 2 deputies decided to turn the courtroom into their own personal playground. Things went from serious to seriously bizarre when the male deputy smacked his colleague in the face. Yep, all while everyone else just watched.
She returns the favor with a solid arm punch, then swipes his face with a highlighter. A third deputy can be seen covering his mouth as the friendly fight continues to escalate.
It is or is not?
But as Deputy Wells tries to reload his weapon of choice, Had snatches the rag and tosses it to the floor.
This is Judge Clayton in DeLand. How are you?
And it appears the deputy duel might be over. Deputy Wells may have won the battle, but both officers would ultimately lose.
The judge might have missed the mini-marker war, but internal affairs sure didn't. After reviewing the footage, both deputies were cited for horseplay and causing a distraction in court. The consequence? A 16-hour suspension each, basically a long nap and a warning not to bring art supplies to work.
I know, but why would he search him?
What?
I get it on the driver because he sees the hand-to-hand contact with them, but he's just sitting there.
In February 2025, a black man was arrested for literally just sitting in the passenger seat. That's right, he wasn't driving, wasn't dealing, wasn't doing a thing, but that still landed him in handcuffs. And the kicker? Even the cop's own lawyer admitted he wasn't part of any hand-to-hand deal.
Good morning, Mr. Barnes.
Good morning. Sir Daly, sir.
You made it out.
Yes, I did.
Just, we're not asking for much, man. Just be careful, behave, don't do anything you shouldn't do, you know? Is those cases are still open in Fort Bend or what?
The case is still open in Fort Bend. It's still pending. Your next court date is down there.
It's on March. Not all the cases are open.
One of them's still open. Paul Two's representing him. I talked to Paul yesterday, and it's set for sometime in March. I can't recall the exact
It's okay.
date.
Have we done PC on this yet or no?
We haven't done anything because he was in custody.
Right. Okay, so we're going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I just want to see if there's enough to go forward on your case. I don't know what happened. Okay, Alex, please.
Yes, Judge. On September 4th, 2024, the officer observed a hand-to-hand transaction between the driver of a parked vehicle and another individual. The defendant was a passenger in the vehicle, and the officer approached and smelled a strong odor of marijuana. The officer asked the defendant to step out of the vehicle and saw in plain view a scale in the driver's side door, and the officer detained the defendant and the driver. The officer found a bag of marijuana in the defendant's waistband pursuant to a pat-down, and the weight of the marijuana was 1.27 ounces.
Are you telling me he saw him do a hand-to-hand transaction or someone else?
The driver of the vehicle was a hand-to-hand transaction, and when he approached the vehicle, he asked the defendant and the driver who did the hand-to-hand transaction to exit. And furthermore, the officer smelled an odor of marijuana.
I know, but why would he search him?
What?
I get it on the driver because he sees the hand-to-hand contact with them, but he's just sitting there.
Your Honor, the only thing would be officer safety, just the pat down. That.
Now, all right, Mr. Barnes, I'm going to find no probable cause. Just be careful, all right? Really, you hang with dogs, what happens?
You get hit.
No. You get fleet. Well, you can get bit too, right? Please.
Because a bad dog.
Just don't hang out with the wrong people, all right?
Yes, sir.
Come on.
But the judge wasn't buying the excuse, not for a second. He shut it down fast, making it crystal clear that they arrested the wrong man. Just another example of a trigger-happy officer trying to pad an arrest record by dragging an innocent black man into court. And this time, it backfired hard. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this wild ride, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Let us know about your favorite moment in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.